This video is for SW290 on the Unrest in Rochester, New York video. I found this video very interesting because it showed two very different sides to a story which I didn't know anything about if I had heard of it before. It sounded familiar, but I definitely hadn't learned about it like I did while watching this. The two sides of the story were extremely different, and even in the way they talked about the event, there were a lot of differences shown, and it really highlighted how entrenched the officials of Rochester were in their own personal narrative that they were in the right and that they were doing the right thing, or that they were justified in their actions. I thought this video did a really good job with the juxtaposition of video clips to show the flaws in officials' arguments and their thinking and the contradiction between their words and reality. It really showed how deeply embroiled the establishment was in racism at the time, and it showed such an unwillingness to admit wrongdoing on the part of the authorities involved. The media coverage as well that was shown from the time showed such a whitewashed narrative and series of events that it was like, at times it was comical. I think I actually laughed, and it was just, it was a really good and interesting and engaging video that that I learned a lot from and got me very emotional while watching it. So some of the things that I saw in the video were denial on the part of the officials, especially the mayor, and a bit as well the chief of police. At around 27:30, the mayor was interviewed on what instigated the riot, and they were talking about how a girl being bit by a dog was supposedly the snowflake that started the blizzard, or the drop that started the flood. And the mayor said that the rumors of a girl being bitten by a dog were never substantiated, while at the time, in the video, they showed a child being bandaged up. Whether it was a girl or not doesn't really seem important. Being bandaged up on a large wound on the child's back. And so, denial seems to have been quite widespread. There's another one, the narration clipped in from media coverage at the time said a Negro woman had fallen in front of or been struck by a car, while the video showed a woman lying on the ground with the bottom of her feet underneath of a cop car, which was omitted. They just said a car, and looking at it, in the video, it looks quite clear what might have happened. Well, at the time, the cops are heard in the video saying, get back, she needs air." It's just such a strong contrast between what was happening and what people said about it. As well, in the coverage of the events from the time, there was a quote I have here. It says that the lady who had fallen in front of or been struck by the car was one of a milling throng of whites and blacks who appeared ready for a pitched battle, which puts blame on the woman instead of the cops who appear to have hit her, which is just ridiculous. And then you see later when Lombard, the chief of police, got up, the media coverage looked at it as Lombard tried to reason with the crowd, but they spat on him and threw rocks at him, two of which badly bruised him, and either of which could have killed him, which is just such a an uneven assessment of what had happened, and the people involved in the riot, or as it was called several times in the video, rebellion, were painted in such a negative light compared to the authorities, who by many accounts were the instigators of the issue. There were several interesting things in the video, like the one guy, the reporter, who said he could not imagine what he was seeing right there in his home city, which fell in with a common theme that no one expected this sort of thing in New York or up in the north, despite that I think it was just a few weeks prior there had been violence in Harlem. But even the people interviewed in the video who had moved to Rochester moved there from the South looking to get away from the problems of the South. But I think a lot of the tension that was there had come after seeing civil rights success in the South and not seeing it happen in the North, just because people didn't see the North as having problems as much, and largely they were in denial about the situation of things there, thinking that they were a lot better than they were, thinking that they weren't like the South, that they were acting doing the right thing, when in reality that they a lot of African Americans who were moving there couldn't get housing. One guy said he applied to 69 different housing places before finally being accepted to one. He had been told outright that people of his color would not be accepted there at different ones, and repeatedly it was brought up that they didn't have the same opportunities as the other minorities, which, despite being culturally more similar to the people of Rochester, New York, they were immigrants, just immigrants from a different part of the country, whereas immigrants from other countries who were white were giving much more opportunities, and with large companies there in Rochester seen as quite prosperous and successful, and touted as having a really low unemployment rate, where one article, which I'll link to, which brought up a number of the points I mentioned here, said that unemployment was 2 to 3% amongst whites, but as high as 16% amongst African Americans in Rochester at the time. So it really showed the disparity in the mayor. I think it was the mayor in the video mentioned that unemployment in Rochester was 2%, sometimes 3%, which was considered unheard of. So yeah, it just shows the disparity between the two different sides of the story, the African American narrative and the white authority narrative, versus the reality of what had happened. So that's why I found this video so interesting and so emotionally powerful.